Okay, so right now we have the Ascension Panel coming up, and we have, is everybody here? Jody Sirota, and we have Judy Satori, and we have Lori Spagna, and let's see, Beth Lynch should be coming on. She had a lecture today.
She's here.
And so what is the Ascension Panel? So we hear the word ascension spoken in spiritual circles. But what does this really mean? Where we sit right now with the triple whammy of war in Ukraine, an ongoing and very obvious climate change,
John's here.
humanity is staring down the barrel of a smoking gun. What is happening to us and why? Are the forces of domination, greed, and control in this planet getting stronger? Is God still with us? Are we alone finding it out together, or are we being supported through a divinely designated process of inner and outer transformation? What can we do to help ourselves and our global human family, going beyond what we know? Jody, Lori, Judy, and Beth will tell us what ascension is and what this evolution process of change might mean for us and the months and years ahead. So if each one of you want to introduce yourself and
okay, so I have phrased the questions today, and what we want to do is take a deep dive discussion into ascension and the ascension process that we're all going through as human beings, what this is, how ascension changes are affecting us, and how we can help ourselves and others move through this process of what is a human evolutionary upgrade for all of us on the earth. And I want to introduce the lovely panelists today. We have Jody Sirota. Jody is one of New York's leading metaphysical educators. She works as a spiritual channel, vibrational healer, and is a professional artist. Welcome, Jody.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And Lori Spagna. Lori is a visionary, light worker, professional intuitive, and an animal communicator. She teaches about ascension and enlightenment. Welcome to you, Lori.
Thank you. Happy to be here with everyone.
It's great to be here with you. And also we have Beth here joining us. Beth Lynch is a medium and a teacher of meditation and intuitive heart, mind, body, and spiritual connection. Through her channeling and her teaching, she helps people deal with grief that they're experiencing in life. And she conveys the wisdom of the spirit world to assist people to return to the fullness of their natural sacred expression. So welcome, Beth. Welcome. So we've posed some rather rhetorical questions today because we all feel that they're questions that might be in the hearts and minds of a lot of people out there right now. But to begin, let's look at what this word ascension really means. Because to me, as an ascension teacher also, I see ascension as having started a long time ago, and that we are culminating now in a shift of the ages where the divine plan is actually playing out in a fuller way. To me, ascension means not going up or going anywhere. It means the activation of more of our true inherent human potential and capacities, which probably began around the time of the Renaissance and has speeded up ever since, particularly around 1987 with the harmonic convergence, and then more recently with the shift in 2012. And now as we go into March 2022, there's a huge outpouring of more accelerated God energy, if you like, coming through to us and coming through to the planet. So we want to look first at this. What does ascension really mean? And what is happening to us on Earth right now? And I'm just going to ask Jody to step forward first and just start with a prayer. Really, the prayer is to connect us all as a human family of man so that we feel connected, we feel unified, and we can go deeper into this discussion today. So welcome, Jody. Hi.
Thank you so much. Grateful to be here with everyone today. So this is a prayer that I use whenever I go into anything that I'm doing. I do Akashic record readings and healing work. And what this prayer does is it brings in the legions of the angels and the archangels to be with us. It also cleanses the space you're in and around you. So I'm going to do that prayer first. and then talk about ascension a little bit. So close your eyes and just allow yourselves to open your heart center. Just breathe into that space, back to front, completely opening that area. Ate malkuth vegevora vegedula le'olam amen. I hereby banish from my space and all of your spaces all energies which are not appropriate, all psychic jamming, all negative emotional energies and memories which are not appropriate. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Ate malkuth vegevora vegedula le'olam amen. The atmosphere around us and through us is cleansed and purified and infused with love. The atmosphere around us and through us is cleansed and purified and infused with love. The atmosphere around us and through us is cleansed, purified, and infused with so much love. I choose to be a clear, pure, open channel. You can all say this to yourselves if you'd like. To bring through the highest vibration of God, Goddess consciousness of pure love and all-inclusive frequency. To align us all with ourselves, with each other, with those that are not here, those in the entire world and beyond, the beyond, the beyond, so that we can start to feel our connection to everything that exists while still in a physical form. So take a few deep breaths and feel the earth holding a space for you, as if you're being held and embraced, where the earth is anchoring you with her gravitational pull to anchor your soul more directly into your body. A lot of this about ascension is about becoming more aware of your consciousness, remembering. It's like if something was dismembered from old patterns of behavior for survival and for coming through illusions, coming through things that we had reactions to, where we've had sort of filters that our lives are being brought through. We're being given a time now, it's a 26,000-year cycle. These things happen in cycles, where there's energy brought into the planet to help us to accelerate the remembrance of the truth of who we already are. And as we're doing this, the idea, the understanding really from my experience is that the earth herself has been going through her own ascension process, clearing out anything and opening herself up to remembering the truth of who she is as a huge being, a huge planet. And she invited us here. She invited us here to be part of this experience on the planet that would accelerate our ability to clear these karmic patternings or miasms, knots in our field, and old patterns of behavior that had to do with survival or illusions or limitations or fear, anything that relates to shame or guilt or whatever the things are that have kept us identifying with these reactions or responses to things that have happened and things that have even been passed down through lineage, generations, and ancestries. So this is a time where we have the opportunity to really shift and change at this time more quickly. Through the quickening of this, our bodies have to we have to become more fully plugged into our bodies so that we can do this in a human form. But at the same time, a lot of people are going through things that have to do with their bodies having to adjust to the high frequencies of our souls, coming back to remembering. It's not our souls having to remember, it's the other parts of ourselves connecting to the lower vibration of who we thought we had to be to survive.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say, Jody, about the changes that are happening to our bodies, because I see ascension as being very much a physical change and a physical upgrade to allow us to receive the much more powerful God energies that are coming now, streaming into the planet. And certainly from where I sit, have grown a lot stronger in this year, 2022, and are set to grow much stronger still. Because as I think you have said also, this ascension process is taking us through at least till 2032, 2033. So we're really just at the beginning of this massive wave of change. So Laurie, in terms of your experience and what you've seen so far this year, in the first 3 months of this year, what are you noticing happening to people? And also you work with animals. What are you noticing happening out there to people and animals as these energies have got more intense?
Well, what I'm noticing happening to humans is that they're changing, and that is the calling. The calling is to change from the inside and to recognize, to begin to wake up to the realization that the external world is the effect and we are the cause, which is to say that we're creating our reality, whether we realize it or not. Our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, our patterns, our ways of being, our energy, the energy we emit through our morphogenetic field is literally imprinting on the field around us that we are the witnesses of, that creates our experience. And everything that's happening globally is a reflection of the collective mind, the collective awareness and energy field. So if we're looking at what's happening to humans and how one of the ways we're changing, it's the realization that, so for example, like with the war, that war is a reflection of the collective unconscious that's at war with itself, and where we as individuals are at odds within ourselves, where we are not living in harmony with ourselves, whether it's our internal organs, our internal body, our mental or emotional plane, or the way we interact in relationship to people, places, things, experiences.
Yes.
So for that war to stop, which it will, because humanity has already decided they don't want it, for that war to stop, what needs to happen is that we, in our everyday experience, we've grown up in a society where we believe we don't have a lot of control over the external world. But the change and the shift is the realization that we can stop this war from within. We don't even have to go anywhere. That what we need to call within us is the energy, the frequency, the vibration of harmony, being in harmony with ourselves, with one another, with our environment, with all that is, regardless of what it is, and resolving love, however war or fighting shows up in our personal space. And then as we become more conscious of our mastery, and I know I didn't get to the animals, but I'll just finish with this piece because I know there's a lot to cover. But as we become more conscious of our own mastery, we begin to realize that we can use energy from a space of consciousness, and we can actually, in a sense, utilize that energy to balance out the polarity that's showing up in the world. So if the polarity is war, fighting, aggression, etc., and the balance and what neutralizes that is harmony and peace. So use that energy to make that change.
Okay, Laurie, if you have someone come to you who's really out of sync with themselves and is really not in that harmony, and they think, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel so horrible? What's going on with me? Because I'm normally like this, and now I feel completely not myself. What would you say to them?
Well, the thing is we're all going through a very unique and individual experience, even though collectively we're sharing so much experience. So when you ask, what would I say? I think it's very dependent on the unique individual, because our ascension journey is so deeply personal and so deeply intimate with our divine source. And as we unify with our own, eternal ever being, our ascended self, our, Christos Sophia avatar self.
Yes.
Generally speaking, the one thing that we can say kind of true across the board is that when we're off, the way you referred to in the question,
off.
Usually something being brought to the surface for us to resolve and or release and transfer.
That's really insightful, I think, and very important for us to understand that sometimes when we're having an off day, it's actually the prelude of a good day. Even though it doesn't feel like the prelude of a good day, it actually is. And sometimes we have to be between the rock and the hard place for a little bit to have that grist to the mill, don't we? And I know, and we will get back to your animal. I want to hear all about the animal communication a bit later, but I just want to move on to Beth for a moment. And because Beth, you're a little bit different to the three of us who are more like channels of spirit out there, way out there. You work as a medium, and you've written this wonderful book, Life, Death, and In Between. And And so it must be very soothing and calming and supportive for people to understand the bigger picture of what life is, and that this little experience of life in the body is only a tiny little soupçon of who we are as people. So if you're looking at this question from that perspective of your connection with spirit as a medium, what do you feel is happening to people and why as part of this ascension process?
Oh, you have to unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Am I
Okay.
on? Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, I feel that, like what I personally and in what I see in my work is that what we're really seeing is the consequences of the separation of people from their true understanding of their true nature of their spirit, which is their, what is the spirit? I often feel that that's something that's a little misunderstood. Not by everyone, but by ones that come to me, I think, especially in grief. And when you're in grief, your separation from faith, God, the bigger essence of who we are, is an almost immediate natural reaction. Sadly,
Yes.
it's the first thing we blame. Why God? Why would you take them? So I see it a lot in that. But it was interesting what Lori shared about, the war and the things you were saying, because when I remember we went back to war in Iraq, and it's this separation, that's what I'm getting at. And when we went to war in Iraq, and I remember my cells hurt and I felt so off, if you will, going back that far, not to mention this war. And I remember praying and just saying, God, or who powers it? Why are we here again? Why haven't we learned through history about this is generations now? And, and look how long ago that was, right? And I heard the next day, and I was just doing the dishes, and that's something, about understanding who we truly are, and that the power we have to mediate between what we think and how we feel. We can open up so many doors in these conversations, right? But I heard a voice, and it said, you are in the consequence, you have evolved as a species technically, but not spiritually. And you are now in the consequence of that. This
Right.
is not punishment. It is, however, a consequence. And I actually knew what that was downloading into me was about, because it clicked in my head what I had asked the day before in my fear moments. And I said, wow, well, that doesn't make me feel any better. Sorry, universe, but I didn't. But I heard that is what Earth is for.
Mhm.
But I also came to an understanding that as humans, and even with COVID, I would get asked a lot, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And one of the things that came in my own meditation time was, the separation of who we are from our spirit, which is, the spirit is pure, it is intuitive, it is creative, it is compassionate, it is connected to the eternal essence, to the divine. That's not sick.
Mhm.
That can't be sick. The personality in the human body, however, takes on these conditions, these manifestings of things that we've gone through, and we're seeing that manifestation very clearly, and we're rolling into it. It seems deeper, yet it's making people awaken.
Yes.
Just like when people go through grief and lose loved ones or lose a child, I deal a lot with that, or suicides, I deal a lot with that. And these separations, sometimes it is in this grief and death that people ask the question or want to open to the higher aspect of themselves and ascend. So in the depths of grief and pain, we do even ascend there. So I hope that answered the question.
No, it does. That's perfect. And so it's like when we go through these challenging times in our life, and sometimes outward circumstances like a war in Ukraine, even money becoming a bit tighter with petrol prices going up, and there's a lot of changes happening like that on planet Earth right now. It is a necessary catalyst for our own inner change and our own expansion of consciousness. But going back to Jody, I know creates very powerful affirmations and does a lot of prayer work with spirit. Can you just comment about your prayers and the effect that they have, and how long, and the effect that they have on you, and how your connection with spirit has evolved through the use of the prayers and the sacred talk that you really have with your team really up there.
Well, the prayers, I've always been doing prayers for years. Like if someone was going into a surgery or something, I'd either call them right before or write something. Lately, I've been doing prayers and being asked to do prayers to kind of open up events or close an event, in addition to other things that I do. I really believe that it has to do with intention. And I'm able to tap into higher vibrations while I'm doing the prayers with the intention to affect the greater whole, either individuals, but we're all part of the same thing. The other thing, part of it is it's really about bringing through love. And Lori was talking about the idea of something to do with the polarities. I really believe a big part of this is it's like a 26,000 year cycle. We have an opportunity to be here again. Part of it is we have to allow ourselves to accept that original commitment from a higher conscious point of view when we came together with our councils of light, to know that we were meant to be here now, to be able to experience this shift, to bring us back to the truth of who we already are, which is what Beth was saying. We're all love. It's without conditions. There are no conditions. If there are no conditions, when people are sick, they say, I have this condition. It's like, well, ask yourself, what's the condition that either you've placed upon yourself or someone has placed upon you? I also do a lot of work with sound and vibrational languages. And the sound that I use, I work that into the prayers and the languages and all these things. The sound helps to clear these energetic charges that we've been living through for eons of time, based on, we were basically told you're not allowed to do this or that, or whatever the control situations were. But it's related to polarities. We're like, in our own minds, we're related to, we go in and out of, should I do this? Should I not do this? Like, well, everyone's telling me this. Well, it comes back to what is the truth? And how do we know what the truth is within us? So when I do these prayers, part of it is I'm praying for everyone to come back to knowing our own truth, to really feeling it. I think Lori or someone was talking about this, the idea that we have to really feel within ourselves, what is it that, what really makes sense to you without having to be what everybody expects you to be. That's a big thing that comes up in a lot of my readings. People having to feel they have to be what everyone expects them to be. So they basically have to reclaim back the truth of who they are to remember what that is.
Yes.
So I don't know if I went off from what you were asking.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect, because what you're really saying is that in order to evolve with our consciousness and evolve through this ascension process, we have to return to the authenticity of the soul. We have to bring more of that authentic soul I am presence into our human perspective and into our human condition and into our human lives. And as we do this more fully, it is going to hit up against old aspects of self, which we want to let go of. And so it's a bit just like we see out there, the polarity that's happening on the planet. There is a polarity and a duality within us. It's not the authentic soul beauty of us or that love that we eternally are. It's just an old aspect of us, the karmic residue of what we've taken in through all of these past lives that we've had. And so I guess to just summarize what is happening to us and why, I think we all agree that it's a divinely orchestrated process of change, of human evolutionary upgrade, of going. I think the important thing is now we are actually going beyond what we know and what we have maybe, I think, ever known before as human beings. And the true human potential is beginning to come forth. And we're just going through a phase of getting ready for that. And everybody, as I think Beth said, we're all at a different stage of this evolutionary process. And now it's coming to a more expanded cycle, really. Because I've been getting from Spirit for quite a long time about all of us entering a new Alpha to Omega cycle of soul, where we came into this long cycle of soul expression in not just in physical bodies, but just as a individuated soul separate from the Godhead. We began this long eons ago. And for some time, I've been getting that this long cycle of soul is now ended, and we're beginning a new Alpha to Omega cycle of soul, a much more expanded expression of our soul coming into not just our physical embodiment, but just as a soul. It's like our soul is no longer going to be locked down into this small time version of itself. We're moving into this much more expansive version of who we are. And all of you have your perspective on that process, I'm sure. So if we look at the next question here, which is, are the forces of domination, greed, and control on this planet getting stronger? Is God with us? How do we know? And we all know because we have our experience and we connect with spirit so often and like every day and probably for years. But when you are being affected, when we as human people are being affected by change in our lives and uncertainty and anxiety, and we're picking up on the global collective anxiety and fear and apprehensions, what can we say to the people, really? So I'm going to start with Laurie. Laurie, what would you say? What do you feel about this question?
Well, the first thing that when you mentioned is the dark getting darker or stronger. What I want to say about that is I think the darker the dark gets, it's almost like the better. It's hard to see it from that perspective. But what's happened is humanity has for so long been doing like carpet sweeping. Even in the spiritual community, we've done, spiritual bypassing. And so what has been in the under the carpet or in the closet was not exposed. So now that it's being exposed, and because collective consciousness is actually beginning to look at the corruption, the greed, the oligarchy that we've been operating under, the patriarchy, the systems and the structures, and being more willing to see what's been there, it appears that it's getting darker and that the dark is getting stronger. And at the same time, because so many more people are becoming more conscious and we're actively working with our own shadow aspects, rather than going to the polarity of all law of attraction and all positivity, which is just a polarity, because we're being willing to work with our own shadow aspects more and more, this is exposing the dark into the light to be as it's being transmuted. So to address your first question, I would say the dark's not getting stronger. It only appears to be that way. It's getting weaker, being transmuted. And then can I address the second part, or have I used up my time?
No, just
the second part.
Just tell us how do you personally know that your God is with you?
Oh, that's such a good question. We really do go through so many tests of faith. We really do. And ultimately, I think it's just so experiential. That's the kind of thing you really do have to experience firsthand. And what ends up happening really is certain things transpire that cannot be denied. They're just experiential. That's the ultimate evidence. And when you start playing in a conscious way with reality, whether, the conscious way, one of my favorite games is like lofty, uplifting questions, where I ask the universe questions, for just insight information. I don't answer the question. I just start asking questions that I want the answers to. And then lo and behold, they start showing up. I play with the laws of the universe and I ask for, show me more about how the law of synchronicity works. Give me some evidence so I can learn and grow and evolve and become more conscious. So when you start playing with it, and then when you actually do start having visions of like real angels and, like light portals opening up, and just those kinds of things do happen when we're engaging and interacting. We have to be discipled to our course. We have to dedicate ourselves in a way.
So what's really coming through in your words is you have to actively ask for what you want. You have to actively engage with those spiritual realms and trust, trust the process, trust what you're receiving. And just give everybody watching one example from your life that absolutely knowing that God is with you.
Oh my God, I have a gazillion, but I'll just give one from the COVID experience when the whole COVID thing happened. And I don't mean to offend anybody. I knew I had a complete understanding. I saw the whole global landscape. I got the whole download on that. And I really got it. And I was told, your job is to put everything in storage, pack up, go travel across the country, live the best life you can live, go anywhere and everywhere and demonstrate, be the walking, you know, poster child for what that's like.
Yes.
And I did it. And I really never wore a mask.
So,
I never had any of those interactions. I traveled the country.
you were perfectly safe.
Point south to the furthest point north, all the way across and back.
So did you intuitively know this, or did you get a telepathic voice in your head that said, do it, Laurie?
Well, I get a lot of downloads. You know what downloads are.
Yes, yes.
You know, we get downloads. And so there's just knowings. But I mean, it's based on so many years of discipleship and dedication. Stuff doesn't happen overnight. And our society tends to be very wired in or programmed into this concept of take a pill and everything will be better in the morning. And we have to undo that. We have to unravel that, because that's not really how it works. So was it just a knowing? Yes, it was a knowing based on lots of, you know, a culmination of a lifetime of lifetimes of work, but it was also divine downloads, divine direction, divine guidance. So it was the combination of a lot of that.
Thank you, Laurie.
Yeah.
And so we'll move to Beth. Beth, you have a great deal of experience in working with people who have probably lost loved ones, who are in grief, and you go to the other side to support them and get answers for them and help heal their broken hearts, really. So give us some examples from your life or your experience. What would you say to people about this question? Is God with us? How do we know? How do you know? What do you say to people who've, you know, lost someone they love and they feel God has abandoned me?
Mm-hmm. And it is usually the first thing people feel. And I think, you know, when I lost both my parents early on, and it's what shook me. And I remember I was raised Catholic, so I always had a very comfortable relationship with talking to Jesus. And I remember as a little girl just always talking to Jesus, and I could see him, and I thought everybody could. And then as I got a little older, and my, 10 years old, I'm finding out people do not, and only that man up there on that altar can do that, I guess. And so I had my own little conflicts, because like I said, that was a breaking point for me. Like, what do you mean nobody, so my own personal experiences started so young. But I remember one time when you're feeling the divine presence, when you're feeling God, love, support, angelic support, loved ones in spirit support, it's so calming, it's so peaceful. And I think, like Laurie was saying, the experience of it, it's hard to put words into it. So when I'm channeling and I do my blessing and their loved ones start coming in and they're bringing, and it's a divine experience, and I tell them that, but it's also natural, that when they start having those experiences, how calm they get. And they get calm, and they're, when the first maybe 5-8 minutes of the session, there's anxiousness, there's anticipation, there's grief beyond words, there's, she better be right. A lot of people want mediums to be wrong, but the spirit world isn't going to send wrong, so I don't worry about it. They send peace, and that peace that they feel. And I've experienced that in my life. And, I can just remember, there's so many, like Laurie said, it's like almost can't pin one down. But not, this past year, I did a big move, something I've wanted to do for 18 years, literally divine intervention, boom, boom, boom. And here we moved 2,000 away of my son and my husband and me. And I remember the transition of my work and everything, even though most of it was Zoom, it was still going through a transition. And I would just remember praying and saying, okay, every day I'm practicing what I preach here, but I wasn't feeling the divine with me. And it wasn't that the divine wasn't with me. And I knew that. So I had enough in me to know that, but I couldn't feel it. And it was such a lonely feeling. And I remember feeling, if nothing else, this is humbling me, because this is what a lot of people feel like when they come to me. And it was just really a few days of that level of frequency, so low. And darkness is absence of light. And I knew my darkness, my sadness, and my, I knew I did the right thing, but the transition was, there was a period, but I remember meditating and I walked this bridge, and this was just not, well, months ago now, but it was recent. And I remember I had prayed that morning and I said, you know, God, Jesus, all of you guys up there, I know you hear me. I don't need proof, but boy, I just need something for myself. But I had my conversation, and I took my walk that morning, and I go over this beautiful bridge over the St. Lucie River. And I remember getting close to the top, and the sky just opened. And I looked, I could cry, I could still cry. And on that river, it was like glass because it was so calm. And I saw Jesus walking. He said, don't be afraid, you're not going to drown. And it looked like he kind of laughed when he's and I went, darn right, I'm not jumping off, and I know I'm not drowning, but I got the message.
Yes.
And this peace filled my heart, and it really re-energized me. Look, I'm crying just thinking about the emotion that I felt, because everything changed then. Like everything just started, everything just started like falling into its natural space. And I feel so blessed to experience, but I think that's being open to the miracles and open to the energy of the divine. And it's there for us, and it supports us in grief.
It's interesting that you see it about really feeling low, and then everything changed. And it's like it seems to me that once you just opened your heart into love and surrendered without the expectation of anything, Jesus appeared to you. And sometimes I think as human people, we get so worked up about, what do I have to do to make a change? Sometimes we don't have to do anything. It's more about our state of being, which is what all of you teach. You teach people about how to be in that love space, how to get out of the head and into the heart. And I feel personally that getting out of the head and into the heart is the key, really, to not just our ascension evolution, but just allowing ourselves to flow like the river of life, taking us down to where it's meant to take us. Because sometimes I think we have this path, but our soul might know better. And when we try to swim upstream and against the tide, that's when we feel really at our most conflicted, I think. And when we just surrender to divine will, things start to flow again. So I really appreciate that perspective, Beth. Thank you. We all do.
Thank you.
We all do. And I want to move now to Jody. Jody, what do you feel about this question? Like, are the forces of domination, greed, and control of this planet getting stronger? Is God with us? How do we know? How do you know?
Well, I've also been doing this work for probably eons of time, but in this life, I had a really strong, when I was younger, I used to just know things. When people would talk, I'd see something that was like missing in the conversation.
Yes.
It would almost be like an arc. When someone was talking to me, there'd be a space where all the other things were in place, and I'd be able to just say something and it would make sense to them, and then they'd feel calmer, like everyone was talking about that. And or they just feel like, oh, that feels so good, or they tell me it's good to have a Jody conversation or something. It always makes sense. And I didn't understand. I thought everybody saw what I was seeing. I didn't understand why they didn't know that. So that was one thing. But then when I was about 19, I had a boyfriend that disappeared. And I don't have to go into the whole story, but he had disappeared and he was never found. And I wasn't religious at all, like growing up. I was very, my whole family wasn't religious. But I was brought up Jewish, but non-religious. But what happened is that at the time when I didn't really know what was going on, no one was telling me I was in England. This person was back at school upstate in New York. And what happened, it turned out that from that point, I started to get these downloads out of nowhere where I heard Scott disappeared and your search began. And meanwhile, I was going with police. They were trying to find this person. All these things were going on. So, so it was Scott disappeared and my search began. And I thought my search was for Scott, but it was really for my own connection and to know that God exists for me. So, and I didn't believe in, I thought if I believed in God, I'd have to become a religious fanatic, because that was like some part of my consciousness was in there. So then I had experiences with energy moving through me and all sorts of stuff that was starting to happen. It was all kind of over a very long period of time, but consistent. And then I had my guides starting to, they were just starting to tell me, write down questions and we'll answer them. So I
Yes.
started to do automatic writing, and I would sit, I loved doing it because it was like, it was almost like a game. Okay, I'll ask this. And they were telling me, don't ask yes and no questions. Ask, how can I best approach this situation? Or how, these kind of things. And so I was writing all these things, and everything they were telling me made sense to me and made me feel really good while I was doing it. I would feel this kind of influx of all this energy. And it would feel like I was becoming the energy, I could feel myself knowing that this was something that meant like who I already am.
Yes.
I didn't think of it that way then, but I felt it. It was like, it was experiential, evidential. And then they started to work with me, and they would say, we're going to be at the corner of the top of the room. So we want you to just focus on that. And then we're going to come closer. They were teaching me all about energy and how to be close to it, or move myself, my own energy out and expand and all these things. And they sort of started teaching me all these things. And I just was always interested in all these things when I was younger. I read books on what happens after you die and mediumship and things like that. But I'm an artist. I didn't think that this is what I was going to do. I'm still an artist. But it just all became something that was very natural to me. And
Yes.
then when people would start asking me, you're going to be teaching meditation classes, and they were telling me all these things I was going to be doing, including that I was going to eventually create a big metaphysical center in New York City. And it was years later, and I was looking for a space for my own work, and it turned out I kept saying it doesn't feel big enough, and I wasn't even thinking about the other thing. And eventually I did that, and it brought a lot of people together, and my work all became about consciousness raising and healing and transformation and personal growth and creativity, but it was about bringing people together. And but I've also gone through, like, where's the divine intervention? What, like,
Yes. What's happening? Yeah.
Anybody out there? And then I'd be getting angry and go, I'm sorry in case you heard that, but are you really there? And when I do my work though now, I really ask specifically, well, they've been saying also that when you ask for things, ask with specifics, intentions, and specific, from a place of truth, and that would really support you in the highest good. And when I do my Akashic record readings, what I find is when I do that same prayer that I do, I also ask that that whatever comes through is evidential, that you can actually, that the other person can either feel the energy or the information makes sense. And the more I keep asking for things that are more specific like that, for the purpose of the highest good of the person I'm doing this with, and for me to be of the clearest place, if I ask, I always receive.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm like complaining that I want things, but it's more when I really just get clear, even if I'm not clear, to just ask, please help me, please help. And with the prayers that I do, I ask for the whole planet to be, please help me, but help everyone. So that if there is divine intervention, can you help to restore whatever's going on? And
Yes.
I also think we still have to we're working through historically the polarities the things that have never been fully solved. In order for us to bring into wholeness and unity consciousness and to a higher dimension, it's all about love. So we have to pay attention to both sides of the pattern. You don't have to agree. You can agree to disagree, and you can do it. I feel like we need to have compassion for all sides, but you can't just tell people that'll say, it's okay, they can do whatever they want, but then on the other side, they don't really know, they've never gone down the rabbit hole, whatever the stuff is. So as soon as they go back to that, like we know better, but we won't tell them, let them do what they want. That's not the same thing as having compassion to allow people to have their own beliefs and thought forms, because we all come from different backgrounds in terms of our consciousness, and we're all trying to come back to the truth of that alignment of where everything works together rather than separately. So
Yes.
I think we're still, like, all the racial discrimination and the control issues and the whatever, all the discriminatory things, all these things in history are coming up to the surface now, because these are lower vibrational perceptions and belief systems and energetics. So that can't really hold itself, excuse me, hold itself in the higher frequency. So the more we bring ourselves into higher frequency, the more we're spreading that energy, emanating that. In a way, we're bringing light to the things that we've kept in the dark to ourselves. Right? I also believe, also like Lori was saying, starts from within ourselves. We have to look at the polarities of our own thought forms, but sometimes, but it's karma. And I think what's happening, one last thing, I think what's happening is when we think of ascension originally, we were thinking it's time when you die, you go to, another dimension, and you get to kind of get a bigger picture of what I was supposed to learn on the earth and understand about myself and what I did and appreciate, whatever. But this is not necessarily, even though it's a time of a lot of death kind of stuff going on, but it's a time where we're letting the death piece in ascension doesn't have to be physical death to get to be able to remember. So it's like the having to let go of the identification of all these karmic what do you call it? Like veils, or something that we've been like living through these veils thinking that that's the truth, and it's a lot of survival stuff, and not seeing ourselves as love, seeing ourselves as something less than, whatever the things have been in historic times, and being stopped or made, we weren't allowed to speak of our truths, and which all these things are happening again now anyway. But the death of that, the actual death process in the ascension process now is really about the death of our identification with who we thought we had to be, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. But there's a feeling of death, and then we're like, well, what do I grasp onto? We don't know what to hold on to. Who we are.
I also agree with exactly what you're saying, and I'm sure we all do. It's because it's like we're walking this path of the soul. I call it the path of the soul less traveled, because we haven't actually traveled this path before. Because in the old cycle that I spoke about, the old Alpha to Omega cycle, we were living out these karmic cycles, and we were reacting and experiencing life through a lot of the veiling that you were talking about, Jody, this karmic, I call it karmic miasmic patterning energy. And we think that these thoughts, feelings, and sensations and views on life and how we see life are us, but they're actually not us. And now we're bringing in this much more expanded, higher perspective of us, the soul aspect of us. Just one last thing before we move to Beth again. Just one last thing. I just want to ask you, when you get a download, and this is your experience, isn't it? And I think we're lucky, probably all of us here, the four of us, because we do get a very definite experience of our spiritual connection because of what happens to us and how we feel when we do it and when we feel it and when we connect. A lot of people out there might not get that. They're still just as connected because we're all divinely created by the same divine creator. We are all sons and daughters of God, of the divine. All of us have different sabotaging energies at times, and we have different experiences of life, and we're brought up in different families, and we're conditioned by different past, whether it's past soul life or soul experience, or whether it's past in this life. We're all different, and yet we're all the same. So in your case, how do you absolutely know that you're getting a download and that your download is authentically from spirit, from divine sources? What does it feel like to you?
You're asking me?
Yeah, yes, I'm just asking you, Judy. Sorry.
You're talking to me? How does it feel?
Yes. How do you know that God is with you and you're getting this download, and that is, when you spoke about Scott and getting this information about how his death or his loss was somehow triggering a greater expansion in you. Did it just come like a telepathic thought? How did it come for you?
Well, it was a whole thing about searching for someone. And
Yeah.
I'm a Scorpio. I need to know, like, go dig down and find all the details and everything. But I had FBI people coming over to find, ask me stuff, because I left school to go to school in England, to go to art school there for a semester. And so I wasn't there during this time. So I didn't know anything, but I kept asking, like, I just automatically, I went into something. This is the first thing I did when I stopped going to school for like about a week, because I was just like, I didn't know what, I thought they weren't telling me enough. So I just sat in my flat and I would sit there trying to contact him. And I was doing this thing through my eyes to his eyes to telepathically connect. I never did this before. I just started doing this. And later, many years later, I found out that that was something I learned in the Egyptian mystery schools of how to connect with someone, which I use sometimes when I haven't heard from certain people that I want to have them call me. I do that too, and they do, it works. But I think part of this too, for me, it's an energetic, like energy just starts pouring through my body. I feel it, or I get the chills, or but I also, there's something with that to know the difference between what's appropriate and what isn't appropriate in terms of energy for me.
Yes.
Positive,
Yes.
I guess you want to call
Yes.
it. Can I say something?
Can I add something in?
Yes, Laurie.
You say how do
Laurie.
you know? Like, it's just such a big deal. Is how you don't always, I think this is generally true. Like, let me know if you ladies agree, but you don't always see the changes incrementally, although incrementally is the way the changes happen. But what happens is you look upon your life and you're like, how did this happen? How did all of this happen? Like, I know when I got on this journey at that time, over 20 years ago, I was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I was working in Manhattan, going to a job and spending 15 hours a day. I was miserable. My hair was falling out. I was drinking 6 or 8 beers a day, like at night to get to sleep, drinking 2 pots of coffee a day during the day to stay awake, falling asleep under my desk. I mean, I was having inappropriate relationships. I was eating everything in sight. I had 6 figures in credit card debt. Like, I was not aligned with my path. I was living a human life based on what you said earlier, Jody, everyone else's expectations of me, trying to fulfill this role of like slavery on, in humanity. And when I finally had my wake up call, which was like my brother crossed over, and I started hearing him, "Hey, Law, it's your dead brother, Jeff." Like, that's how he talked to me. That was his voice. Like, he was so New Yorker funny. And I started following that path. And within 2 years, all that stuff was gone forever. Like the credit card debt, 6 figures of credit, the weight, the crazy eating. It's like massive amounts of pharmaceutical drugs that I had taken for 20 years from doctors trying to fix me. Like, in 2 years, all gone. And then, right away, the ability to telepathically communicate with animals came online. It just started to come online. Then the psychic gifts just started coming. Like, you don't know where this stuff comes from. It just starts getting activated because it's within all of us.
Yes.
We all have it. It's just, we have to write our course. We have to align ourselves with our most benevolent best trajectory. And as it does, the magic is revealed to us, through us, and we're astounded. I mean, we're astounded at our gifts. We're like, oh my God, this is so good. Like, where did this come from? Like, you can't make this stuff up, like when I started discovering codes in the DNA and all these things, it's like, that's not my personality self. That's the divine working through me. And that's how it is. I'm sure it is that way. I mean, I know you ladies. I mean, pretty well enough. You're like, your magic and miracles comes through you because you righted your course and you aligned yourself, and it's a natural byproduct. And that's how you start knowing, because you're like, man, I couldn't make this stuff up if I tried.
No,
I couldn't get all this clearing and healing, change and transformation. Like, this doesn't happen to the average human. This is the stuff that happens when you start working with the divine.
So when you started working with the divine, Laurie, because I agree, it's like we're all working with the divine, and we all have our story of how this started for us, which differs. But there must be one thing that, you took some sort of action to work with the divine in a more focused way. First of all, I guess you must have had some sort of realization that you were going off course in your life because of something. And how did you get back on course? That
was my wake-up call. Like, that was my wake-up call.
Yeah.
My brother, like Jody, I had a brother who transitioned. That was your brother, Scott, who transitioned, right, Jody?
Boyfriend.
Oh, your boyfriend. I'm sorry. Okay, Scott was your boyfriend. But I had a brother, and he started communicating with me. I was married at the time. My ex-husband divorced me because he thought I was crazy. Like, the old stuff started to crumble. But I started following his messages, and he was like, hey, you better wake up. Like, you're next. You're doing the same stuff I was doing. You think just because you're not doing coke every night and, pot every day, that you're not doing the same thing, but you're doing drugs, you're doing alcohol, you're living out of alignment. Wake up. So I basically quit my job. And yeah, I made a radical change. I ended up becoming a dog trainer. I start hearing the dogs. I'm like, this has got to be crazy. This is like crazy. Like, I'm hearing these dogs talk to me. You know, like, where does that come from? I didn't even study or learn how to do that. Because what happens is, once we get aligned, like stuff that's rightfully ours, that's on our journey, you know, stuff we learned or mastered from other lifetimes gets like ignited. And then it was just, yeah, I moved to Maui. I lived there for 2 years. That was radical. I just started following my joy. And that's always the direction for everybody. Like, follow your joy to the best of your ability. And I was working with animals, and I got into the healing arts, and I started doing energy work, and I was into like every modality, and I went to every meditation on the island I could go to. I'm learning how to throw energy, work with energy, and, you know, like meditating through the night. Then I had an on-ship experience, like you can't even make that stuff up. Like, when you have that experience and you're wide awake, teletransported on ship, and then stuff's happening and you're like in a plasma state, like that stuff, you can't, that's just so wild. So it's, again, it's a byproduct, but it started with the wake up call of my brother. And yeah, I took action. I did take action. I wasn't a bystander. I didn't just listen to stories. I got myself involved by first quitting that job, then like, moving to Maui, then doing all that esoteric stuff. And I was listening to teachers. And just one little kudos to you, Judy. I will never forget when I met you the first time, and I was like in one of your events, and I walked up to you at the end. So I guess you had a message for me or something. And you were like, oh, you're on the fast track. Like, you knew. I was like, how did you know that?
You obviously were. You obviously are.
Yeah, but like that's an example. That's a testament of your gifts, but it's also an example. Like, how do we know these things about one another, and how do we see and have these gifts? That's the divine, again, works through.
Well, that's what I think we all are speaking about. It's that sense of knowing. Like, I'm a channel, like you all are. You know, we're connected up to spirit. But we're connected up to our own soul. And when I get information like I did for you, Laurie, it just comes out of left field. It's just a sense of absolute intuition. It's just a knowing. And there's, over time, you develop the capacity to understand or know when you know. It's like, you know when you know. And that's just a practice thing, I think, and an experiential thing. And you just do it over and over and over, and then you know what you know. But what really struck me too, one of the things that really struck me about what you just said is follow your joy and taking action. There's following our joy is really important, because Spirit always say to me, life is about being happy and well. Life is not about the hard yards and making it difficult for ourselves. And if life isn't flowing in a way that makes us happy, it's up to us to take the action steps, like you've just explained, to make ourselves happy and well, because nobody else is going to do it for us. And Spirit can't do it for us. They can guide us and show us the way, but we have to take those steps. And, you know, one little step is followed by the next little step. But we don't have to know the whole journey, do we? We don't have to know where all these steps are leading us. We just have to start taking the little action steps of change. And like, for me, that action step of change is about getting closer to God, getting closer to love. Stop beating up on myself, maybe because I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, to embrace life and the joy and the passion of life. And then I feel that when we embrace the joy and the passion of life, that's when the creative channels to the divine open even more strongly.
Yeah. And one other piece I'll add is just that I do really think there has to be a desire, and I so know this about all three of you, that there has to be a desire to serve, like not to your harm or detriment, never to your own harm or detriment, but to really, truly contribute, help, and be of service.
Yes.
And there is something about that that just, wow, really escalates the gifts. And you do go through, I think you'll also all three agree, you go through tests to demonstrate your willingness to step out of the way. You go through tests and trials to take the high road. You go through tests and trials to choose integrity, to choose the virtues that are indicative of someone who really has who is gifted with these gifts. These gifts are all ours, but claiming them and utilizing them, getting into alignment comes from that heart space of not only willingness and desire to serve, but claiming those virtues, aligning with that high road, and choosing integrity and those other types of virtues that we all aspire to. So I think that's an integral part too.
Yes, thank you very much. Beth, what would you like to add to this discussion from your perspective of your work and where you sit with your understandings about life, the bigger picture of life? Because when you're working as a medium, you really do integrate and see a much bigger picture and a much more expansive picture of life than most people can do, which is awfully comforting to people who go to you, I'm sure.
Yes, because some, past it, and it's interesting that everyone's mentioned a death had maybe catapulted them into this understanding or wanting to understand or desire or intention to be connected. And I think, just by what I see and have experienced myself, I think, the greatest gift for all would just to be in tune with the understanding of who they are as a higher being, spiritual being, because in the spirit, that is our creativity, our communication, our intuition, which is a survival mechanism. Our intuition isn't just talking to spirit, it's a survival mechanism for us. That voice can come down through, and that is emotional, to feel these things. So if we get back to our true nature, which is under our spiritual nature, all of those beautiful qualities get stronger. We feel more connected. We're wired to heal grief. We're wired to heal poor moments. We're wired to go through the most challenging human experiences and emotions. And if we're not connected to our spirit, we're not wired. And we're seeing that. I think we're seeing it personally and globally. So, plug in. Honor yourself.
Yeah. What do you say to people that come to you about if they feel really distanced from spirit and they may be in grief or they may be angry, upset, feel there's no God around them? Why has this happened to me? How do you help them to get back into the realm of spiritual connection, into their heart, their sacred heart space?
Well, it's interesting when I'm doing a session, whether it is a channeling, which is most of what I do, but then teaching or meditation, and when you start to guide them into the experience with a prayer or intention, it starts to happen for them, and they can't deny the feeling. I mean, I've worked with people on a lot of medication, like you were saying, Lori, and they come in and they're just totally, and within 5 to 8 minutes going through the meditation, they're changing. I've seen facial structure change and have them look in a mirror. They can't deny what they feel. And if we create that space for them to feel, I think the rest is divine intervention. We're creating the space and the wisdom that we trust for them, but we have to do it for ourselves first, always. And I think all of us do that for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's certainly, experience is everything. And if it's about what we feel, it's about our own experience. That's how we know. And all of us are just facilitators to help people reconnect to their own heart, reconnect to their own truth. Remember, as Jody said in the beginning, remember, we're really being called upon to remember who we are, but on a much more expanded perspective than this little human life and this little human body. Because as all of you have said, really, we have the capacity now to go beyond what we have known and to bring soul knowledge, ability from past lives into our life today, and to use this knowledge and ability in service and for the betterment of humanity. And this whole ascension process is very much about bringing in to our human body and our human mind and our human lives so much more than we understand about ourselves, and to use the sacred wisdom that just automatically comes in at the right time without us really doing anything. We just have to be in that energy. We just have to be in that passion and surrender and loving space of maybe getting out of our own way and not knowing, but not worrying about not knowing, because we're in the river of life, and we're in this river of new life right now. And the river of new life is taking us where this river is meant to take us, because we all have don't we? It's a soul destiny plan for this lifetime. And we're going towards, on the right path. And the only, as you said, Laurie and others, when we get off this path, we feel heavy and oppressed and victimized and held down and dominated and controlled, and I don't want to do this anymore. So when we start to feel, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to change my life, we should listen, because it's our heart and our soul speaking to us about what is not serving us. And maybe it's time to make a change and make a shift in where we are, as you did, Beth, when you moved thousands of miles across the country, to change your life. So when you decided to change your life like that, how did you know to move? Because it's quite a big thing, moving somewhere else. How did you know it was the right course of action? Yes, Beth.
Oh, well, I've always wanted to return to Florida, and then we had to move when my son was like 1.5 to be with my mother-in-law, who was very ill. And then when she passed, honestly, it was a financial thing. We didn't have the money to move back. But for 18 years, even my son, who was born in Florida, but moved when he was 1.5, we always had this thing. And it was interesting because it never could happen. It just seemed like I would say, I know it's happening and I don't know where. I know it's just the timing wasn't happening. And next thing I know, 18 years go by. And doesn't my son walk down the stairs one day when I said a prayer and said, look, I am getting my family to Florida this year. And I don't know how, but I'm getting there. Within an hour, he came down the stairs and he said, Mom, I see nothing for me here in 5 years. Let's move back to Florida. I just looked at him and I go,
yeah,
really? I mean, you really, because he's 21. He was just getting his life. I didn't want to leave him and go 1,500 miles away, So we were waiting another year maybe. And then but what happened was I told 3 friends, hey, in about 6 months, consider my house, my house to be on the market, maybe unofficially in 6 months. I said this, 6 months. 3 days later, one of those people came back and said, I have somebody who'll buy your house this month. I'm like, what? And it literally happened that way. I mean, the next thing I know, we're coming down within 6 weeks and we are here. I couldn't have made that happen in that 18 years that easily. It was so divine. Even finding my house, we weren't finding a home. And I dreamt the night before, I saw a man shake my husband's hand and the realtor's hand. And I heard a voice say, you will get the house because they like you. And I woke, and it was my dad's voice. And I woke up and I said to my husband, we're going to find a house. Because it's been months in this market, you all know. I mean, we were losing opportunities because people were putting $100,000 over in something that wasn't worth even what you were already paying. It's really crazy. But we did that. We came to this house that day out of 8 houses, I think. And a man walked out, shook my husband's hand, shook the realtor's hand. I burst into tears. I said to the woman, I think this is my home. No, I know it is. Mm-hmm. And she goes, I like you. Mm-hmm. Do you know what? They just put it on the market. We were the first ones to look at it. We had to go asking price, not a penny more, because at the top of our budget, and we still got this house. That means in this market, that's what I mean. The physical things just started to happen. And
the divine takes you where you're meant to go.
In the dream, I knew in the dream. I didn't really know if it was going to happen that next day. I mean, I knew it would maybe take another month. I was just happy I had the dream. I'm like,
well, I just want to say, when you tell that story, what's so clear, Beth, is that from the get-go, you said it. Your words were, I don't care what it is, we're going to go. With this year, we're going to go. And it's like you were so on board energetically with your intention, with your determination. Yes. Like you were we're doing it. You burned the ships. Right? You burned the ships from, taking you in any other direction, so to speak, or whatever that saying is. So and that's why I'm saying you're the cause. If we go back to where we started earlier, you were the cause in that moment of the effect that energetically, your son felt it, and then everything in the universe aligned to to bring you into alignment with that particular trajectory. And because you were going there with excitement and enthusiasm and optimism and joy, look at all the great things that happened.
And
Yeah.
it's
Because your energy was like, not your intention was the driver's wheel, but your energy was the highway that took you there.
I just want to say something else.
Jody,
Creating that kind of thing.
thank you.
But,
Laurie.
like I'm actually going through some of that now. In the last 5 years, my whole life has been changing. So I'm constantly having to let go of things and all sorts of stuff. And now it's been coming up that I'm gonna need to. I just moved like a few times in the last few years after not moving for 22 years. So, but I've been told, I've been guided, like it's time to start thinking about this. And I was going to say the piece, like when Lori was saying that about Beth, you knew it was time. It was time. For me, I know that whether I'm doing it myself or it's not the right time, I can feel the part in me that's knowing that right now I still have to clear out a few things and get a few things in order. But I know that I still am going to have to do what they're telling me I'm going to have to do. I don't know where I'm trying to figure out where to go, but at the same time, I know I'm not ready to go yet. And that could, so it's interesting to know, like, is it me, the lower part of me worried about all this now in terms of stopping it from happening right away? Or is it really, it's just not the time yet, and in another year or so, then it's going to be open up to, so I'll know exactly where I'm going.
Jody, can I just give you something? Your
Yeah.
south node is going over, the south node in astrology is going over your sun sign in Scorpio. So when the nodes are playing with I'm not even an astrologer, I just know it like really well, but when the nodes are playing with your astrology like that, it's karmic. You're letting go of what's no longer serving you because you're moving on to the next higher trajectory. I mean, right.
And I think you just saw that when you said that year, like within the year, it's kind of like what I was feeling, and for 18 years wanted to be back here. But all of a sudden I knew that year was going to be a shift. And that's, I think you just did your own prediction in a way that, it's about that, but each day there's something moving you closer.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like being able to go with it. And then there's times when it's like, no, let me just hold on.
I know, I get that.
It's also about death of your identification of what, I've been in New York City for like years, but I did have a house upstate, although I don't have it anymore. But now I wish I did. So, what was I going to say? Oh, before also, I was going to say something before. Part of my ability to just know and feel, and from the beginning, was that I've always been an artist since I'm a little kid, and I just would paint and just do whatever I wanted. And at this point, I do abstract work, but also with an intention that the visual vibration will help people so I do like visual, audible, and kinesthetic because I work with sound as well. And but because like with art, with painting, it's kind of like knowing to be able to paint and just be able to get out of your own way and be able to let that come through. So it's like, in my sense, it's spirit coming through me. It's not me making the painting, I'm channeling it through. And I think anyone who paints is like that, but I already came in that way. But the piece of it in painting, especially like I'm doing abstract work, is to know when even with any kind of painting, is to know when it's done, to know when to stop. So it's like you just keep going, but you have to know when it's finished, otherwise you can overdo it. So it's sort of a way of knowing. I knew how to sort of get out of the way to be able to bring something through from the perspective of being a creation energy. I also think there's a part of this that I work with a lot of people with, balancing out your masculine and feminine energy. Because we've come from so many times of survival and all sorts of things in other lifetimes. We're also on the planet going through some of the same kind of stuff now. But that energy, when you're in survival, your feminine energy is the part that has to be still, to feel, to know, to give the direction to the masculine, to take it out and make it happen. And they're like the true soulmates, the mates of the same soul. But I find a lot of people, they're having a hard time feeling or just knowing things. But part of it is that their feminine energy is like half in and half out, not wanting to feel to the depths of what we are capable of to even know what we want. So I feel like all of that, from being an artist and everything else, like, or I came in this way or whatever, And I mean, I knew I was supposed to be, doing something with my art, but I didn't know the rest of it, of all the work that I'm doing now. But it seems to me it's all like interrelated. I asked my guides, how do I do all this stuff with channeling and, whatever else I was doing, healing work and all that. But I don't want to like let go of my art, because that's one of the things that also makes me really happy to do, just the act of doing it. And they talked to me and told me to do these concerts where I would project my art really large. So you're getting visual vibration. I would do sounds and languages, the audible vibration, and then the energetics of the meditation and the kinesthetic vibration. So they gave me a way to bridge all of these things together, because I was feeling like, well, if I'm going to go in this direction, I don't want to lose what I really like to do. You were saying the idea is to be happy. There's a personal purpose and an outer purpose. Our personal purpose is to work through whatever we need to work through to get back to remembering the truth of who we are and our gifts and what we're here for and what we really want and like. And then the outer purpose is doing what you love to do. It's the one is about being and the other is about doing. What is it that you really love to do that really inspires you, that kind of feeds your soul, and that has an effect in a higher way that it can be of service to other people. So,
Yes.
So you're taking care of you at the same time as taking care of others. So because a lot of with healers and things, I don't know if any of you have gone through this, I've done this in myself, it's like you're giving out so much stuff that you finally have to go like, wait a second, like you have to come back to taking it back in for you, and also not relating so much to what's going on with people, where you're actually matching the vibration. It's like the guides told me years ago when I would start to do hands-on healing, I would feel so much of what was going on and get information and everything, but I would be feeling all their stuff. And then I'd still have it when they left. And they told me it's like when you jump into a hole, when you fall into a hole, the idea would be to assist someone to assist themselves. You bring them the rope, you put it down the hole. You can hold it and help to pull it up, but they have to climb out. The other way would be you're actually jumping in with them, and the two of you are sitting there going, somebody help us. So there's a lot of responsibility through this ascension process to come back to the truth of who we really are. And it's love, and love is all inclusive. And we're here to come in this planet as a whole to come back to the all-inclusiveness of acceptance of everything, and just allowing it to balance out through the having lack of conditions. And you can all be your friend if you think the same way I do, or all these kind of things going on. And it's playing, like somebody was saying, Lori, I think, was saying, it's all playing itself out. And historically, we have to, all these things are coming to the surface, but it seems like it's all at once. And I find my friends and I doing this work, we sometimes like, what are we doing here? Did we know that we were going to get into all this? But my guides always tell us we're here because we're meant to be here to assist, because we have the ability. It's all in our consciousness, and we're coming into those levels at the same time as remembering. We knew before we got here, we sat with our councils of light, it's like our board of directors, that we can just talk to and know before we got here all the things that, some of them anyway, of the things that we're going to have to deal with. And so it's taking back that, reclaiming that response, the ability to respond to the higher choices we made, to come in and be here on the planet and do whatever we do and be however we are for ourselves, but also to maybe have an effect on others. But to also to trust that in knowing that you accept that original higher conscious choice, you can start to accept your own feelings, your own choices as good, right, and safe as well. That has to do with the feminine energy stepping further in, but then you have to feel more deeply. And people don't always want to feel, it's like a whole reservoir. You can't just, like, if there's poison in the lake or something, or the water hole, you can't just drink a little bit of it and think it's the whole thing has that in. So we're like afraid to jump in completely. But the more we kind of come in and balance out these parts of ourselves, the more we integrate and merge together with ourselves, we become more in tune with that oneness within ourselves. And that helps the greater whole, because we're all part of the same thing.
Yes, which really brings me to the next question is, we are all part of a greater whole. We are all connected, which is about fifth dimensional unity consciousness and being part of the same oneness of all of creation. I want to direct this question to you, Laurie. You had a beautiful little dog with you earlier, probably still there in the room, and you're an animal communicator.
Mhm.
So are animals going through some kind of ascension process too?
Well, the animals they definitely are becoming more conscious along with us. I mean, they want a better quality of life too. And they want to be, as a collective, they recognize themselves as fully sentient, like brothers and sisters of Earth. And they want to be recognized as conscious sentient beings. That is part of the divine will of the collective of animals overall, just like we want a better quality of life. And we all want to be recognized and validated and recognize our divinity and our oneness and all those, qualities and experiences that are so desirable to us. But at the same time, what's really interesting about the animals is that they really are here on divine mission too, as a collective. So I always call them the ultimate psychic sponges and the ultimate empaths, because they're sharing their space with their human, whether they're animals in an environment or whether they're in a human family, they're sharing the energy space of the environment or the people they live with. And they tend to absorb that as a way to do healing for their human or for the environment. So for example, if we're talking about environmental, whales and dolphins, great example, right? So they're doing healing on the waters, whereas like our dogs and cats are doing healing on us and healing on the environment. But they also are demonstrating, they are the ultimate mirrors as well, because we don't always remember that part of reality, that everything is a mirror. It really is, to a large degree. What we see and perceive in our external world is a reflection of our thoughts. Our perception does not actually absolutely represent what is real, true, or accurate. So with the animals, they will be a mirror very often to the energy, the frequency, and the consciousness of the human they live with. And if the human can see that and perceive it, the desire, in a sense, from the animal collective is that the human can choose how that energy is working or not working in their lives so that they can make change as might be appropriate. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
I know it does to you guys. I know you guys get it. Yeah, they're just here helping us. They're on divine mission because they're not as attached to their physical form. They're not as attached to their identity. They're not as attached to their gender. They just don't have those egoic perceptions and perspectives that we have through the lens of our personality. And because of that, to a large degree, and they're also not trying to figure things out the way we are with our left brain. They don't have to learn the highest virtues. We have to learn compassion. They don't. We have to learn forgiveness. They don't have to learn that. They already know those highest virtues. They are the embodiment of them. And by living on the earth, they're embodying the highest virtues that we're aspiring to. So they anchor those energies. And, elephants are another great example because they're basically the keepers of the records.
Yes, they are.
Land records, whales are keeping records, right? So, I once had eye to eye with I've had eye to eye with a lot of amazing animals, but this one time with this particular elephant, and my life flashed before my eyes. And I heard, remember who you are. And in that moment, that is what I needed to hear. I needed to remember who I was.
Yes.
And what was going on in my life. So it's just amazing how they telepath. And one last piece about the animals, and then I'll complete what I'm saying, is that one of the most amazing things that we're going through in our reality right now is, as a collective, developing discernment. Like, what is true? There's a lot of humans who don't know what's really going on and who to believe, what to believe. We have a kind of like, I always call it the physical world, a narcissistic program running, where there's just all of these flying monkeys on the media, arguing and debating, and nobody knows what the heck's going on. So we're developing discernment. But the brilliant thing about the animals is they don't lie.
They don't lie, do they?
No.
They either like you or they don't.
and they have truths.
Yeah.
So if you want to know things about the history of the waters, and you know how to talk to whales or dolphins, if you want to know truth, why are the sharks here? Sharks are brilliant. They're here to help us face unnecessary fear. That's their mission. If you can talk to animals, you can learn so much, and they won't lie. So I love
Okay.
this.
Okay. Thank you very much, Laurie. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I also, like years ago, I had an experience with a horse. I went to stay in a B&B in New Jersey when I was over there. And the owner of the Airbnb had a horse that was really depressed, and it was moping around, and it wouldn't get up and it wouldn't eat. And I said, oh, I wonder whether I can make a sound recording to help the horse. Because what I picked up with the horse is the horse had karmic trauma that it was dealing with too. And so I made this recording, and she just recorded it onto his cell phone, and she played it to the horse. And after a day or so, the horse was up leaping around the paddock again. And I mean, I don't normally work with animals, but it was very exciting for me to see that I actually could. And it sort of goes back to the soul knowledge, you see, because maybe, we've all got things we can do, all of us, whether we're a channel or not, or a healer or not. We all have soul knowledge and abilities that we don't even know exists. And this time on the planet that we're moving into is very much about allowing ourselves to flow further down this river of life and go beyond what we know and go beyond our perceptions of who we think we are, as both as a human person and a soul. We've all have this treasure, really. It's like a treasure. It's like a treasure chest inside of our soul that we haven't even opened yet. This is what I think is so exciting about this next 10 or 11 years on the planet, because we're starting to open the treasure chest. We're starting to truly step into magic and miracles. No matter what is going on out there in the 3D world, we are no longer needing to be part of that world and part of that experience. And as we shift, as everybody said, as you shift your consciousness, as we set an intention for what we want, as we speak the divine decrees for what we want, firmly and strongly as God beings aligned with our creative force. And I just do it by saying, with the power of God, that I am, whatever I want. And this power and intention of issuing forth from this divinity within us really is the miracle maker, isn't it? Really is the miracle maker. So I want all of us now to move into some experiential support with the question of what can we do to help ourselves and our global family. There's messages that I know all of you can give that are very important for people to hear. And there's also, I know Jody and I speak these light language words of new creation, which we just suddenly knew how to speak. Laurie, also, you probably do this kind of work as well. So let's just see what we can bring forward for the people. We'll do it individually, and then maybe we can do it collectively. But I'm going to ask Jody to start. And I'm just going to say to all of us on the panel, if we feel guided by our own source and our own knowing to step in and say something, just step in and do it, because I know it will be divinely orchestrated and perfect. So we just do what naturally comes forth into the space for the next half an hour of the panel. Jody, you begin. Because Jody, I'll just say that Jody and I have been on countless panels and events together in the past in New York. And quite often Jody would start doing something and I would just get the nod and do my bit, and then it would go back to Jody. And I'm sure that will happen with Laurie and Beth if you feel to contribute too. Just do what you feel. Jody.
So I always have an intention before I do any of this. So I would like to have the intention for us as humans, to spirit in human form, for us to remember the sacredness of who we are, which is the experience of, or the recognition and the embodiment of ourselves as love. That's all inclusive. It's an all inclusive frequency. And so these sounds or languages will be about awakening activating the codes of our consciousness to remember who we already are. and also to remember the languages that come through for me are connected to the earth plane before karmic patterning began, before humans even inhabited the earth. So we're sort of starting from a clean slate with no karma, but in relation to the star systems, planets, and beyond the beyond, so that we can remember ourselves as multidimensional. And they also activate your codes of consciousness to remember your gifts. So, but all of this in the idea of love, I want to bring forth the idea of remembering our sacredness.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yana shonya kaim yadoru amaleki shararu share amareki sarale saroru amanesh garishanaror eshikaya nareki sare Oshmanaki Blakade Bede Durishinda Dokiamma de Durishkadar Rannare Setundara Kimberegi Saror Ashana Oshana Ibiaro
Mikli salak shlana belakoya. Ana belakadi salat sabelakula kishtokoliki. Ana belakasi sabedikuda pedikasakiti. Adbelako de sana stana belako de siasa kastaki. And these energy words are source creation words. They're energy words of new creation for us. And like as Jody is of the ancient earth, mine is from above and below. So we're balancing through the heart space from above and below, from this place called beyond the beyond, this more expanded God creation energy matrix of the all, of the one, to open our sacred heart space to a wider, a broader understanding of the love that we are. Mikaliza de shlana belakode salakoya. Ekiza de sabalukode shlakosa melakode samadakode shlana belakose kode slakosa keti. Akasita kushtana madakiaka.
Aka, Matea. That means
Matia,
love.
Matia. Laurie.
I have a message. I don't know what's going to come through exactly, but I do know I have the collective of all the eternal ever beings of this group speaking as a collective that I'm going to merge with and bring through whatever comes through there. So just give me a moment here. Greetings and blessings, beloveds, all beings here gathered here now in one group. How bright we all are, shining upon ourselves, all as one here now in one group collective. Let it be known here now, we are all present with you, as one with you. You are all versions of you coming forward together, unifying. As many of you already know, you are of every dimension, time, space, reality which exists. You are in all places simultaneously. You are at all frequencies and consciousnesses simultaneously. You are all that is. Open up to receive the spiral of your own life, of your own consciousness and of your own awareness, to recognize that wherever you are at any point in time, you can be with all that is. And this is to say there is no aspect of yourself that must remain in any form of separation or duality at any point in the future from this moment on. So this is to say, again, that keep your focus on the future as you begin. And we say you, but we mean us. As you begin to move forward in your journey, keeping forward on the future and not the past. For the past is behind you and you can never go back. There is no reason to ever go back now. There is only a point in the future of your linear time, which does not exist in the future, but exists everywhere all at once. And by merging yourself with any version of yourself, with any and all perspective at any point, time and space, you can be and will be able to be all that is everywhere at any time. Recognize that as you play with the spiral of your own reality, your own creation, being willing to perceive, much like a spiral, from any direction, viewing into your own reality, you will see and expand your ability to perceive all that is, and your ability to expand your experience into more of what you are looking for in your future. And so again, we would like to recognize you here now as one of us, as we are you and you are us. From all dimensions and frequencies, you exist. And all that is required is for you to align yourself with the dimensional frequency and our bandwidth where you exist at any point in time and space, to see a new perspective, to have a new frequency, to vibrate in harmony with anything that you choose to experience. Recognize that the trajectory of human Earth experience at this time is to become vibrationally aware and to merge in consciousness with whatever exists, wherever it exists. In fact, it is true that this is what the speaker is doing here now, merging with the collective, with the consciousness of all beings, uniting as one collective group. We are all ascending beings, and we are with you here now, as we always will be, waking up to the broader perspective of the evolving consciousness which exists right here, right now. There is nothing to wait for, beloveds. There is no point in time to hold you back. There is simply perspective, energetic frequency, vantage point, what you are willing to open up, to perceive, and to realize and receive. One other piece we would like to share with this particular group, as it is related to some of the questioning in the minds of many who are here with us, part of us here now. And that is to say that the infinite resource of all that is always within you. You have one primary job at this time, and job is just a loose description. One primary role, and that is to become the brilliance of who you came here to be. This may sound trite or simple. You may have heard it many times. However, we would like to reinforce this reality that this is true. You are brilliant and magnificent because you exist. You are brilliant and magnificent because it is who you are. You cannot be anything else. It is the essence of who you are. And as you allow this to embody yourself, to embody with you and through you, you will come to know this perspective as well. You are magnificent. You came here to be magnificent. You came here to share your magnificence with all beings on earth. Let yourself be it. Refuse to look into the past, focus on the future, and you can be nothing else but the magnificence of who you are. There is so much more, and yet for now, we will subside.
Thank you. And as we move through this ascension process, particularly in this year, 2022, we move away from the personal small-time will and the personal small-time aspect of self, this human aspect of self as we have known ourselves to be, and we expand into the magnificence of the soul aspect and bring the soul aspect fully into our human existence, and to allow the soul's truth and the soul's light to flow forth into our human life. And in our service work and all that we are to do and have been brought to the earth to do, and indeed have chosen to do before we came here. And as we move into this process, we move beyond the solar plexus will through the divine will to express all of the light that we are. Beth, your feeling of what you're experiencing right now, what would you like to contribute and bring forth?
I'd like to share just a brief little meditation into the heart. I feel everyone just close their eyes for a moment and bring their awareness to their breath. And as you exhale, it's like you're blowing out a candle and being careful, being gentle with your breath. You begin to slow. As you breathe up behind the eyes, the divine eye center, you're sending that intention to relax deep behind the eyes, the muscles, the muscles of the forehead, temples. Let the next exhale be a little bit slower and flow down through the cheekbones and jawline, relaxing all the muscles in the face, the neck and over the shoulders, and down through the arms, into the hands, fingers, fingertips, as the lines of the fingerprints begin to fade and disappear. You bring your breath and awareness into an inner light of your heart. See, feel, or know this light illuminates like a galaxy of stars, expanding in your heart with your breath, expanding through you, around and above. This galaxy expands, and you are one with its spark, its light. You are one with this beautiful divine vibration of pure love, intelligence, wisdom, and power, a sacred inheritance. And you allow this light to continue to flow into all experiences you have ever had, bringing light to the shadow, to the experiences you are in, and to the experiences yet to be. A beautiful, illuminated pathway of divine possibilities. And we allow this light as a group now to form around Mother Earth like a beautiful aura of light. May it continue to illuminate into her air, her water, her earth, and the consciousness of all who inhabit her. May light fill their being. May light lead our way. Amen.
Amen. And may light shine upon the earth and from all beings upon the earth. And may love prevail and overcome. Mishlakisada Belukudishla Nabalakoya. Lakisata Sabatagudish Tashtako Sabatagodesa Kudi Mashtiakosa Matia. Matia. Jody.
And may all the leaders that are holding space for all the different countries, states, everywhere on the earth, may they be infused with so much love and so much light, all of them, not just some, all of them, so that there can be a way for the light and the love to awaken everyone simultaneously, to remember the truth that we're here all together as one, that the love that we all are is never separate from anything, so that we are all connected, we are all here together, we are here to ascend together. We're also here to remember, for those that are awakened on some level, that know a sense of purpose, that you do not have to rush through your lives to finish something as if you won't be able to get it all done. Everything that you are doing or being, just even in your presence, is making a difference. Everything that you may accomplish within this lifetime is exactly what you are meant to create. Know that it is safe to allow yourselves to just be. Being is the divine feminine. We call in the divine feminine of everyone watching today, everyone listening. We call in the divine feminine to step in more fully now, to trust that it's safe now to be, to feel, to feel more deeply, and to know that it's safe. And in that knowing, this is also part of how to know, in that knowing, you give that guidance and feeling, this is what I desire, this is what I have passion for, this is what I feel and know. You give that to, we call in the masculine energy to come in now, to meet with the feminine, so that the masculine can take the direction from the feminine knowing to know what to bring out to manifest in life and bring it back as a full creation. He gives and she receives. And as they come together within your own being, they recognize, as if like when you look at someone and look into their eyes, you see deep into their soul, they realize they are the soul mates, the mates of the same soul that felt that they got disconnected in their perception from all the different filters of other paths. This is about bringing the masculine and feminine back into the body more fully now for a true alignment, an alignment of the soul mate within to allow to have the soul mate without. Or if you already have someone in your life, to allow that to become even deeper and more sacred and more attuned, maintaining a sense of self. Each part has different parts of the equation. The feminine has her own work, the masculine has his own work. Together they maintain who they are, but they also become greater than the sum of the parts. Ashanana kalaki barakitar, isonom ashala kuritur, iskituring yantan to kurikya, merging together this energy, feeling a pyramid shape of sacred geometry around you, feeling the energy of the pyramid shape. See it as a three-dimensional shape, not just a triangle. But imagine that all around you and underneath you, with the ability to, as sacred geometry has an effect of energy within a shape, has an effect. In this shape, it's about initiating change, but also integrating everything that was said today. Everything that was said that aligns with your heart, so that you know the difference and that you can merge yourself and reclaim all the parts of yourself back to yourself. And in that, as we become individually more aligned, it affects the greater whole. And in our presence of just allowing for that, allowing ourselves to feel more deeply and to manifest more fully, and to give and receive to and from ourselves and others, know that love prevails. Love is the answer. Love is the essence and the substance of who we already are in our connection to everything that exists, because everything is the same. Ashakar ikuturim berikitar and shitukurim im argis ashkil ala kharim berikitori. Askatar en itukuria nateki shatukun alakur eshatar oshkuturim berikital alakitor. Ansasti kisa nasa ines kushata eskasa matea.
Thank you, Jody. I find it really interesting that you say the same words, Matea, Matea, Matea. And to me, it means you are loved, you are blessed, and so it is. And I think comes from, well, Sirius. And interesting, isn't it? How it's about knowing, you see, it's about returning to our soul's truth, because neither of us have had any conversation about beyond the beyond and about Matea, Matea, Matea. We just both say them, but we started to say these words quite independently of each other. So there is a purpose and a plan, and it shows even more, you know, and it will show even more.
It's a way to show us that we really are all coming connected and coming from a lot of this, you know, the same place initially. And it's the remembrance. And when we also meet other people who are in this from the same experiences, it's that evidential kind of proof. When people say, how do you know? Well, why would we know that with all these kind of unusual words and sounds we're making? And in the end, I've been saying that for years, and you've been saying that for years. And then I've heard you say that actually at other times, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's all right. I know what that is. It's like speaking the same language, but it's language of light.
Yes, language of light, language of divine language that we could all speak at one time, and we've just forgotten. Every human being can speak the divine languages of light. We've just forgotten how, but we can relearn it and remember it, most importantly. And I think it's part of our ascension process to remember it for many people. So as we begin to finish today, I want to just ask each of you, what is the key thing that you feel we can do to help ourselves and our global family through this time of significant challenge, really, if you view it as a challenge? Do you view what's happening on the planet as a challenge, or is it a divinely orchestrated process that is giving grist to the mill and creating an accelerated ascension change? One thing that we can most do to help ourselves and the people we love through this time. Beth, would you like to begin?
Sure. I personally don't feel it's a divine orchestration. I feel it's the human, where the unevolved human consciousness has created, mass consequences, and personally for people and globally. Now we're seeing it's just something I have always, I feel. So I don't feel it's like, why would God take a child too, or
no, I agree. I'm sorry, I think I phrased that incorrectly. I don't believe that what is happening in Ukraine or bad things happening to good people is divinely orchestrated. It's done by human people, and they make a definite decision to do that. What I mean is the bigger picture of ascension is divinely orchestrated. But sorry, continue.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
all right. No, I didn't phrase it.
And
I
I
don't
didn't
think
think
I phrased it
you
very
really
well.
were saying that, but yes, okay.
Yeah.
We're on the same note.
We're on the
there.
same page. Yeah.
But yeah, I think just being, now I lost track of the question. Was
Sorry. The question is, what is the key thing that you feel we can all do to help ourselves and our global family through a time which is a bit rocky?
I think it's to have that intention to understand the power of who we are as spiritual divine beings and as human beings, and stop the separation, because the personality and the body need the spirit, and the spirit wants to express through the personality in the body, creatively, intuitively, through animals. I mean, it's just right there. So I think just sending the intention to be open to that, because often it's when we are forced to, whether a loss of a loved one or, this global unrest. And I just honor your spirit, honor.
Yes. And is there one process that you would suggest to people who come to see you to do to get that, to engender that greater divine connection within ourselves?
Yeah, meditation. And not to complicate meditation. It's mediation. It's breathing, and it's intention, breathing, and mediating between your thoughts. Let your thoughts tell them to, okay, later on, I'll talk to you later. It's me now. Breathe and just keep it simple. The simplicity of meditation is magical, mystical, and powerful.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Laurie, what's your key take-home message so that we can help ourselves and our global family by doing?
I mean, honestly, I don't think that there's anything new about that. I just think that's the same, I've said this a gazillion times. I know we all have. I think we have to do our inner transformation through healing, the healing journey and the awakening journey, where we are willing to look at our own shadow aspects. Like one thing that I did want to bring through earlier, which I could do now in just a moment, a moment's time. Sure. It's just, we light workers, we tend to send love to everything, but love makes everything stronger. And sometimes what's needed is a natural energetic balance. Like right now, what our world leaders need is integrity. So let's breathe in and bring the energy of integrity in, and ask for divine downloads of what it is to be in our integrity, and to embody the energy, frequency, vibration, and consciousness of integrity, and have divine source, creator God, instill that within us, every one of us, and awaken it within us. If it's already there, right? It's dormant, right? So this is what we need.
Yes.
Now to really bring our leaders to a space of integrity, to help balance or counterbalance or neutralize the corruption, so to speak. That's just one thing, but that was lighting up earlier. So maybe, if we're willing to receive that now, just take some breaths. source consciousness, truth, point of view, perspective, understanding, and definition on what it means and how it feels to live in a place on a planet with integrity, to live among people who are in their integrity, to embody the energy of integrity, and to have world leaders who have and embody integrity, what that means, and that it's possible for us on planet Earth, and that we're all capable of it.
Yes.
We just take a breath and let those energies come forward. And allow. Just notice, it's so subtle when we work with energy and yet so profound. There it goes, nice. And the thing is like, to me, that question is not a whole lot new to it. Like, be what you want to see in the world, be the change. If you think that there needs to be harmony somewhere, be the harmony, and learn to play with energy to bring in the energy of harmony. And if there's corruption, be the energy of integrity and learn how to take the high road and be in integrity. And if you feel that the world is off balance, or you're unhealthy, or you feel unhealthy, like choose behaviors that are indicative of the world you want to live in, the person you want to be, and the people you want to be around, and the environment you want to live in. Choose things that are healthy if you want to have healthy. Choose to be the gatekeeper of your reality. What comes into your mind, you are creating. If you are watching violence on TV all day, whether it's from the so-called news media or anything else, you're the gatekeeper. Your awareness is God's awareness, aware through you, all of us. So if we're letting something into us, ears, eyes, skin, body, that does not resonate with the kind of world we want to live in, whether it's health, happiness, joy, love, excitement, whatever, optimism, well-being, peace, harmony, like, we must be that. We must choose with every behavior, with our thoughts, with our emotions. Doesn't mean we can't have thoughts or emotions that are out of alignment. It just means when those come up, we have to work with them to transmute them so that we're no longer vibrating there. So we have to become energetically, with every aspect of who we are, what we want in our lives. And we have to start behaving in accordance with that, and also choosing through the mind and the lens of the awareness that we are the creators of our reality. If we don't want war in our reality, we have to simply stop being at war, stop witnessing it, stop choosing it. If we don't want death, illness, or disease, I didn't even get to talk about death codes. We can clear death codes, but the real key is just start being healthy, choosing what is healthy, what is right for your divine alignment with health. If you want abundance, you have to shift perspective on that, shift energy on what it means to be poor or lack or in not enoughness. These are not new things to any of us. We've been talking about this, but that's probably what I would like to leave with people, to really taking that responsibility. This, by the way, I'll say this last piece. 6, we're in a 6 year, 2022 is 6. 6 is about taking responsibility. We all have to take 100% responsibility for our reality and step out of the victim consciousness and step out of that perspective that something is being done to us from the external world. We're the creators.
We're the creators of our own reality, aren't we?
Yes, for us to step up, we have to take 100% responsibility for the holographic reality of our own personal experience, because that is where we can make the greatest change.
Thank you, Laura. Jody, last words from you.
Well, one thing is that it's a full moon right now, and full moons are always about completions. And we're at a point where we're coming into the spring equinox. So the equinox is about balance. So if we can hold an intention that we can balance within ourselves the polarities that we have within our own thought forms and beliefs and perceptions, and to allow ourselves to start to let go of what doesn't serve us anymore. And we all know that if we really pay attention and tell the truth to ourselves. So it's about telling the truth to yourself, to allow yourself to be there to receive the truth, even if you don't like it. And you can kick and scream and all that other stuff, but the truth always sets us free. So once we're in that alignment, things start to happen. Things start to move. There's a flow of energy. The other way, it kind of gets slower and deeper into lower vibration. But the main thing, my sense would just to, because we're running out of time, is just to say, don't give up hope. You know, don't, you know, there was a thing on TV, they were interviewing a little girl that was in the Danny Thomas thing with children with cancer.
Yeah.
And they said, what would you like to say? And the little girl said, I just want people to have hope. And they said, what does that mean to you? And then she said, not to give up. So I just thought, this is from a little child that had cancer. And so I just feel like something like that, especially even coming from a little child, you know, they're old souls telling us a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of kids coming into the planet now that have a lot of information and wisdom to share if you allow them to be who they are. So that little child within ourselves, to just give credit to that part and nurture that part, and maybe get a dog. I see the dog in the background. You know, do whatever you can, because like you said, dogs, animals, they show so much compassion and love, and they don't judge anything. You can yell at them and they'll come right back and kiss you. You know, not that you should treat them that way. But so the main thing would be to trust that we're on a path, we're being led. If you just keep asking to be shown, even if you're not so open, but just keep saying, show me the next step, show me the next step. And then you can decide if you want to go there, but it doesn't mean you just have to listen without feeling it first to know if it's right for you, because you want to make sure that what you're hearing is the truth of the highest level. It has to make sense to you. So rather than to just say, they're telling me, so I guess a lot of people think it's a higher being just because they heard it, and therefore they should go along with it. That's not always the truth. You have to keep checking in to make sure it feels right, to know if it's the truth for you.
Yes.
And I just
No
want to
false lights anymore. We're done with false lights.
Thank you. We are. And you
thank you for having me part of this with all of you. It's so nice to be with all of you, and the people that are hopefully listening still. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And just going to thank you very much, Beth Lynch. Absolutely in 100% agreement that the way to find that connection to God is to go within and to be still and to hear the word of God speaking to us, through us, and to find our way through that stillness. And Laurie, integrity is absolutely vital. And having the courage, as Mary Magdalene said to me, the strength of the heart through all ages, courage. And we're all being asked to step into greater courage now, and to, if we have anxieties and fears come up, to understand that often that is because we have had courage, immense courage, and really shone our light in past cycles. And so that anxiety is just coming up to release through us so that we can step into a greater light for ourselves and for others. And Jody, you know, it's like this process of change is so important for us to truly integrate and understand and realize that we are sovereign beings and that we are all on this process of change, and that hope, faith, trust is the key catalyst, really, which is going to help us just keep going on this journey, which we call Ascension. So much love to all of you, and thank you for joining together, all of us, and thank you to all of those who are watching tonight, and thank you, Mark, for inviting us to be on the panel. And many blessings to you all, and may we pray for peace and love and all that is good.
Panel. But Judy, how do people get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me if they email me at admin@judysatori.com, and I have an Ascension Library, as I said, and that is www.ascensionlibrary.org. And they can also send messages through the green help button in that Ascension Library.
Great. You can also put that on the chat. And Jody, how
I
about
just
you?
put it in there for her.
Oh, thank you.
I hope I spelled it right. Right. Did I spell it right? Ascensionlibrary.org, right?
That's right. Ascensionlibrary.org.
For me, it would be just go to my website, jodisirota.com, JODISEROTA.com. You can sign up if you're interested, or at least find out more about my work. I do Akashic record readings and healing work together. And I do smaller groups, sometimes larger groups. And my work is all about consciousness raising, healing, personal growth, transformation, and creativity. So I do a lot of things, and I'm a channel and an artist as well. So I'm here if you want me to connect with you. So Jody Sirota.
Put it in there for you, Jody, too, and for everybody if they want to see, jodysirota.com. And I
Thank
put
you.
mine as well. It's my name, lauriespagna.com. And they can also find gifted activations, especially codes of immunity and imperviousness to any and all viruses, any and all shedding, any and all nano technology implants of graphene, artificial crap inserted into the body in any way, shape, or form. You can get codes of immunity and imperviousness activated. That's free on my YouTube channel. If they just go search my name on YouTube.
Thank you. Beth, how would they get in touch with you?
I put my website there, innerlightteaching.com. And that's usually, I would say, the easiest way. And my book is available on Amazon as well as Barnes and Noble, and my website as well. And it's 28 years of what I've learned from spirit and healing and love and grief, all in that little book.
No, four goddesses. Yeah. And we have to center ourselves. We have to take responsibility for ourselves. We have to realize that we're all part of the same whole. But let me tell you about something tomorrow. Well, Judy, of course, tomorrow has a special event, and that special event is, you would have to just go to PayPal and just, pay a little bit extra money so you'll be able to see Jody. And so she's going to have a from 4:15 to 6 o'clock special event on becoming authentically you, access your divine, I am the soul template. Also, tomorrow is a big psychic day. And we also have a psychic room. And I invite all four of you to come to the psychic room. And in fact, if you want to email me, mark@newlifemag.com, and say, yes, I'd like to do that. Tell me what times you like to do it. And in the psychic room, so people are constantly coming to the psychic room, see what psychics are there. And you can give people a very short free reading. And if they want to have a large reading with you, I'll give you a private room, and they can come to that room. You can make appointments and have them come to that room. So that's a big psychic day. Tomorrow, the psychics we have, who do we have? We have Kimberly Meredith. So Kimberly will be here, actually giving also a lecture at 11. We have Maya. We have Jan Beldy Post. We have Juliana Rose. We have who else? Rika Kaplan, Evelyn Singer.
Is Gail there?
And also Jill Dane. And Jill will be giving workshops.
Is Gail Thackeray there?
What's that?
Is Gail there?
Say it again.
Gail?
Oh, Gail. Yeah, I don't know if Gail will be, I got to ask her if she wants to come to the room. Tomorrow, Gail Thackeray, she'll be giving a workshop. Robbie Young on nutrition, he'll be giving a workshop. Sean David Morton will be giving a huge special event at the end of the night. Swami Shivananda, he's going to be coming and giving a lecture. Who else we have tomorrow? We have a lot of people tomorrow besides
Lineup.
we have Brett Cotter. He's going to be giving a lecture on break free from pandemic PTSD with the stress is gone method. We have Maureen St. Germain. She's going to be here tomorrow, mastering our 5D self. We have the huge, strange multiverse panel, very cool panel. And that's with Sean David Moore, Alan Steinfeld, Don McGrath, Gail Thackeray, and Phil Gruber. And what else do we have tomorrow? Srikanth Gopi, Mama Points and Chakras. People really like him. And we have the Goddess panel, which is also a great panel. Great for the men.
Who's on the Goddess panel?
Goddess panel is, who's on the Goddess panel? There's Becca Tabone, there's Lady Christopher Barrett, there is Michelle Alva, there is, like there's two others. Who's on the Goddess? Don't put me on the spot. Okay, on the Goddess
Right,
panel.
I'm sorry.
No, I love it.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Ellen Pellegrino and Lisa Lemire.
I think Emma Shasta should be on the Goddess panel.
Hey. So, in a different light.
My goddess.
But so the goddess panel is great. It's great for men, great for women. It helps women empower themselves to bring out the goddess in them. It helps man find out what a goddess is looking for in a god or in a man. So that's all, folks. Thanks again for supporting. It's been a great day. And see you tomorrow, Judy. And I might see Lori and Jody tomorrow in the and if not, just come and hang out. It was great just hang out and see everybody. Again, we're going to be doing 2 more expos, live expos. This one's real live, folks. So it's going to be June 4th, 5th in Long Island, New York, and Hop Park at the Hyatt Regency. And it's going to be in Fort Lauderdale at the Broward Convention Center on May 30th and June 1st. And
Are either of you guys going to be there for that one?
what's that?
Fort Lauderdale? I was asking my other 2 panel friends here.
Was it again?
Are you going to be in Fort Lauderdale, either of you?
No, I can't. I'm in New Zealand and
Oh,
we can't travel quite yet. We are border.
oh, you're in New Zealand right now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
in Florida. Jody's in New York. We've had a lot of Californians here today. We had Joe Wallach, Stephen Halpern, Gail Thackeray, Nick Degato, Robert Young, all from California. And Sean.
I'm formerly from California,
Huh?
formerly, and now from Florida. So
Big
I'll see you in the expo in Florida too.
Yeah, so that's it. Hopefully next October we'll have an expo in New York City, unless one of the mandates goes insane with the mandates. But otherwise, this last expo in October in New York was honestly the worst live expo I had in 32 years, because the hotel wouldn't let anybody up into the room, and it's everybody in the lobby because of the mandate, the vaccine mandate.
They wouldn't let anyone upstairs?
Without a vaccine card. I thought every smart New Yorker had a phony vaccine card. I was wrong.
But wait a second. So didn't they tell you that at the expo, like before you had the expo, and they didn't even tell you or not let your people up there?
Honestly, I had so many people saying, great, we're coming. And I thought so many people had cards. I mean, it's so easy to get a card, give me a break. But they didn't. So anyway, next October.
That was channeled information from a long time ago that the vaccine cards won't succeed because it will be demonstrated that financially everywhere that requires them will really suffer. And so they will realize out of just financial necessity, they just can't have them. And it's starting.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys. Thank you so much. Judy, thank you so much for hosting.
Thank you to all of you. Thank you very much.
Really
Goodbye.
fun.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Laurie.
Next time. Lots of love.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Hi, Mark. Thank you.
Hi, Mark. Thank you.
Everybody, come tomorrow.